This is without doubt one of the most exciting games I've ever watched live. Arguably Game of the Year 2023. Now Magnus Carlsen has white, Fabiano Caruana with black. This is the Champions Chess Tour Finals and it's game one of this incredible match. So e4 from Magnus. We get e5. A Roy Lopez appears on the board. This is 91 moves and incredible drama. You'll have no idea who wins right till the end. So you'll have to excuse me if I rattle through these early moves. Now after knight f6, castles, we get bishop c5, the archangel variation. Fabi's just done a course on this on Chessable, so Magnus is right in his wheelhouse. Not that Magnus is a slouch in this opening, so he looks for d4 in future. b5, kicks back the bishop, d6, d4 on the board. That bishop scurrying to retreat. Now bishop e3. Hang on, can't you win a pawn? Well no, common trick. Bishop d5 wins a minor piece. So castle's played instead. Knight bd2 develops. We get these bunny ear moves chucked in from both players. Rook e8 played, a3, and now rook b8 from Fabi, the mysterious rook move. Fabi's gone Austin Powers on us. This is when you know you've made it to Grandmaster or you're a terrible player. You just shuffle the rooks. Now we get bishop c2, Magnus tucking back, overprotecting e4. a5 from Fabi, classic queenside expansion. We get rook e1 activating, and now you might think b4. You so often see that. You've lined up the rook, but Fabi goes a4. This is deep chess. Number one against number two. I think Fabi's number two now, isn't he? He overtook Hikaru. Hikaru's number three. So Magnus goes bishop d3, eyeing up the b5 pawn, which is weak, and bishop d7 defends with an x-ray, because if you capture, you're running into knight d4. Great move. If pawn recaptures, then you win this bishop. If you don't and you take here, well then you can chuck in the in-betweener check and then win this. Black's doing fine. So the pawn not touched. We get queen e2. Takes on d4 now played. The pawn recaptures and knight e7. Again, this pawn is now untouchable. If you capture and then go with the queen, well the queen's going to be opposite the rook. The bishop takes here. Then the rook crashes through here soon. Black doing well. So the pawn not touched. Magnus hits the open file. Now knight g6, spinning around, and queen f1. Very grandmasterly maneuvering from Magnus. He opens this rook. No longer has his queen opposite the black rook. We get bishop a5 now, coming to a new diagonal, x-raying these tender points. So Magnus slides his rook across, defends the knight, comes away from the attack, and after c6 from Fabi, Magnus decides now's the time to blow open the centre with pawn to e5. He's been playing these structures since a kid. He knows his stuff, even if he didn't make a Chessable course on it recently. Now what's the idea? We see knight d5 played, but if captures, well bang, this is the shot. You chop off that important defender, then you hop with the knight, and Fabi obviously just wasn't in love with allowing that knight to hop. So we get knight d5 on the board, pressuring e3, also in line with the rook, that kind of thing. And so after captures with which Magnus played, if you go here, well black's instantly winning back the pawn and then some, doing well. So we didn't see takes there. We get knight e4 played, and now why didn't Fabi play here? It is the top engine move. Well again, he seems to be nervous of letting that knight into e5, where it eyes up all of this weak stuff. But the computer says bishop c7, no worries, do your worst. I've got a lot of pressure here. And if this, by the way, well this is the basic idea of the trick. Very similar idea to the bishop d5 trick earlier on for white. So okay, Fabi doesn't take this pawn here. Instead, he goes rook f8, an aggressive attacking idea. Because after Magnus takes this pawn on d6, very natural, well you can immediately sack an exchange, crash through here. It's one of those positions the computer then gives it as zeros because you can force some kind of repetition against the king once the queen swoops in and everything like that. The second rook comes, the bishop potentially can fall back. But Fabi goes for this one, smashes through with the bishop. Magnus recaptures, allowing this to fall, but then going king g2, and now Fabi blinks and makes a mistake. But both players do this entire game. There's so far to go. So what the heck just happened there? It's just gone right back to the start of the game. Right, apologies, where were we? That was weird. Hopefully I've not lost my analysis. Right, where are we? Okay, smashed open the king. Right, we were here. Fine. So, what should be played here? Best move, well, rook takes here. This is the one to play. And after pawn recaptures, knight takes back. And okay, black's doing okay here. White should take here and be slightly better. This was the way to go. But, what does Fabi play? He takes this one immediately with the knight. He doesn't go with the rook first. And it allows Magnus to take this one if he so wishes. But he doesn't do it. And then he could take this pawn. He's got a good game, even though the king is very drafty. And this is probably what put him off. With that king being exposed, he decides to take the rook instead. Knight takes here, rook recaptures, and at least he's kept a bit of extra pawn cover. So bishop c7, tucks back, pressures this important piece. You can go knight e4 to keep it on, but Magnus picks up this pawn. We get bishop captures. You don't want to take with the queen. It's dead level. So check first, king goes, now pawn takes. Look at this cover, by the way, for the black king. Very important. And now queen d7, targets h3, the king covers, and rook b6. Fabi is winning back his pawn by force, so queen e4 played, so that after captures you can crack on with pawn d5 and take space. Rook f6, the game is called level, but so far to go. Rook d3, rook d6. We're not going to linger ages on these moves. We see both players looking to improve pieces, and now watch this for a king walk from Magnus. So king c7 played, queen c7. Now rook c3, hits the queen, rook back to d3, queen d8. Now the king marches, this queen looking to create tricks. Don't leave the f2 pawn, so queen d4, and you don't want to take off those queens, by the way. Then the end game is dangerous. You know, the king marches in way quicker than the black king. That's a runner. These could be weak, so don't chop the queens. Fabi keeps them on. Magnus keeps marching the king away. King c2, rook f6 hits this pawn, so f3 played. Why doesn't Fabi capture? Well, then this one starts running really fast. So queen c7 check, king b1, queen d6, and king a2. That one's reached the promised land, but Fabi is not done. He wants to hunt it, and after queen e3, he cracks on with the b pawn, looking to rip open that king, using it as a tin opener. Now we get captures, rook takes on b4, and queen d2. Magnus hits this rook, so the queen can't move. He gets behind his passed pawn here, so we get rook b8 back, rook d4, rook b3, so much probing from Fabi. The pawn is now covered, rook b8 comes back, rook d4, rook b5, Fabi not repeating. He's pushing the position here, and he is pressuring Magnus on the clock as well, which you don't often see. The clock times have disappeared. Right, that's what happened when the whole board reset. Fine, but put it this way, both players very low on time. So h5 played. They do get 3 seconds increment back per move though. Queen d3 hits that rook, rook b3, now queen d1 to cover f3, and after queen b6, hitting b2, now Magnus blinks and makes a mistake. The world number 1 cracks. He should go rook d2, but he plays queen d2. Defending, yes, but leaving the f-pawn. Fabi takes it off the board, and you can't even start pushing d6, or you run into queen b3 check. Drive the king back, then check from here, win the white queen, game over. So the pawn not touched. Magnus blocks that third rank. Rook f1 still a strong move, but okay, rook f2 played, still good. We get queen c3, queen d6, queen c6 offers a trade, Queen b4 apparently the strongest move, but queen h2 played in time trouble, a good move, hits 2 pawns, and the position is so subtle. You know, look at the evaluation bar, black's -3, now after this one it's -5, and it's because you didn't come to b5 with the queen covering c4. So now after this pawn drops, Fabi is 2 pawns ahead, you can't actually push d6 or queen c4 check, you're losing a rook. You know, there's problems, but if the queen was there, you could push d6. So rook d4 instead, queen g3, a3 on the way, so queen b4 helps some defense. But what does Fabi do? He's on fire. He pushes that pawn anyway. This queen captures, and you can even go for the endgame here, because the rook gets back in time. Oh, we just got our clock times back. Right, but they're on to 15 minutes. Okay, I don't know what is going on. And in that endgame, these pawns run very fast, but hard to assess. So queen e5... Okay, that was weird. It just started a new game that they were currently playing, overwrote the one I was analysing on, and I haven't even been able to find the game again now in the view I use, which is the live tournament games. So I've switched to an analysis board here. That's why the view is slightly different. Apologies, and it's probably a good point to pause, do a couple housekeeping items. So if you're not yet subscribed, do consider, really helps me out. Like, comment, share. I think that's what all the pro YouTubers say. And one other quick thing, so tomorrow, Thursday, I do have a work Christmas party, so I'm afraid I can't get my usual evening video out. I'm going to be preoccupied, having a few beers, and a big thanks to these guys, members of the channel as well. Really appreciate the support. If you've never considered it, do consider becoming a member of the channel. I'm trying to work on that space, you know, perks and things like that. Do more in future. One day, maybe I can take this thing full time, do more in that space, but with your support. So thanks in advance. Now, back to this incredible game. So, queen e5 played. The rook is hit. We get queen d3, covering that one. Now queen d6 blockades the pawn, and now the computer hates this move, but it's quite natural. You know, it wants queen e3 or something, but Magnus goes rook a4, covering the a file. Fabi now goes, no, sorry, not queen h2, that's the recommended move of the engine, but rook f5 played to target the d pawn. They're really low on the clock. We get rook d4 back, now rook f8, switching to attack, and Magnus goes b4, pushing his passed pawns, but making room for the king. So a check now comes from the second rank. Fabi switches direction. King b3 played, queen f6, big threat to go rook f3, pin and win that queen. Is pin the word, or would that be a skewer actually? Either way, that's a big one. So queen c4 played, we get the check on the board anyway. Magnus blocks with the rook, and now rook f2 sets up this massive threat. But it's really interesting because Magnus ignores it. He shouldn't. He should go queen d4, but he plays d6. Fabi lands the obvious, but actually the best move to play here was queen a1, the silent killer. Really reminds me of this Hikaru Magnus game. Similar thing in the corner of the board, final one of the Speed Chess Championship, and there was a silent killer that Hikaru missed. Anyway, you're threatening mate, so you have to give room for the king in one way or another, and however you do it, the lines are lost. You know, here's a sample one, this kind of thing. I mean, there's nothing to say that Fabi would have found all of this stuff, but these are the kind of ideas, and you force a win of material or you checkmate, stuff like that going on. But this move missed, understandably. Queen b2 check played instead, but it actually helps Magnus. For the first time in a long time, the game is level, but there's so many swings to come. We get queen a1 check, king b5, it's marching up the board. Queen a8, Fabi switching into defense mode, and now this pawn pushes onto d7, one square away from a baby girl, so rook f5 check played, and now Magnus, the only way to keep the position level is to give up your queen. Obviously, of course, why wouldn't you, right? Because after king b6, Magnus does not find it. There's now a mate in 13. So Fabi starts with the right move. king a6. But now, to get the mate, he should go rook f6 in this position. Now, I'm just going to show you the most direct checkmate here to give you a flavour of it. You know, it's not obvious, all of this stuff. This is a sample line. This leads to the quickest mate, but it's not a quick one, of course. You know, long moves there, but this is how you can eventually corral that king, deliver a mate. But okay, king a6 played, no rook f6 check. Instead, the queen checks here. Excuse me, the king sidesteps, and now Fabi goes for a great continuation, but it's not as precise. So he wins the queen, lovely job, but he's got to stop this pawn from queening. Now actually, he's still doing great, because after b5 from Magnus, Fabi should get his own pawns rolling, and it is a technical win for black. But he doesn't do it. He checks, drives back the king to win a bit of time on the clock. Apparently king c2's drawing, but Magnus goes king a4, looking for b6, but without allowing queen takes with check. And after h4, good move, b6. Well, now Fabi just has an absolute brain fart, low on time. What should he do? Well, g5 was the way to go. Get them running connected. Because after b7, g4, yes, you can make a queen, distract it, make another queen, be a rook up, but these pawns are unstoppable. And it's actually to do with the fact that they're doubled on the g file. So you can then support here. Awesome stuff, and the rook just can't cope. One of them's going to go through, it's dead lost. But after b6, Fabi, he goes h3. What? The pressure of the clock. Gives the pawn with check, the king steps back, rook d3. Now don't get me wrong, the position's now level, it's a draw. Magnus brings in his king here, Fabi running the g-pawn. We reach this critical position after g4, rook e3 check, and Fabi has his final and most disastrous brain fart. This is a brain turd. What does he do? He goes king f6. Why is that a losing move? Well, king f7 should have been played, because now after rook e8, this time you can go queen f6, check, and no matter how hard that white king tries, it's actually got nowhere to hide. You can even be worse if you step the wrong way with that king. But after rook e3 check, Fabi goes king f6, and it's all different. Rook e8 comes, and the queen's checking square is blocked. So what do? The pawn marches. In fact, sorry, that was resignation here on rook e8. Fabi just resigned, but this is one sample line. Even if you make your own queen, there's a problem, because white is first to the punch with the checks, and you can actually deliver a mate on the king. This is a sample line. So coming back here, final move of the game. Honestly, what a wild ride. I hope you enjoyed that. Now they're still playing, so I'm not going to reveal the result of the match. This was just the first game, and it is a contest, believe me. Thanks a lot. Do check out the video on screen for another epic game of chess, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.